Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another week. I hope everyone's had a very good and productive and safe week. So first I want to say salams to my brother looking very sharp as usual in the other corner. Assalamu alaikum. And over there in that corner is none other
Yes,
than
it's me. It's Abdurraheem Green, and in the other corner over there, we have our esteemed doctor.
Abdul Haqq Baker. And this is
This is
a
a piece
piece
of cake,
of
bruv.
cake.
Piece.
Peace. How you doing, Abdurraheem?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. Alhamdulillah. Not bad at
Now,
all.
today's subject, wa alaikum salam, Niamana, and good to see you with us. I'm glad you're excited about today's topic. I'm intrigued. And celestial trailblazer from the African part of Nigeria. Is there a non-African part of Nigeria? That may be another question for another time, inshallah. Wa alaikum salam, Akira. So, Abdurraheem, today,
Yeah.
subject. Wa alaikum salam, all of you, Sister
Yeah.
Anisa, all of you joining us now. Tell me,
Yeah.
the subject that we've got today, introduce it for us and then explain a little bit to us about this simp, wimp, or wonderfully woke.
Okay, yeah. So Jazakallah khair. I think it's going to be a great discussion. It's sort of a little bit going back to our discussions that we've had previously about masculinity. What does it mean to be a real man? And the whole, whatever it is, red pill or blue pill, I can't remember, movement. Yeah. And the incels and all that type of stuff. So, we're sort of going a little bit back towards that territory. And I guess it will touch upon feminism as well. I think these are really important, interesting points of discussion. I think some of the aspects of what a simp is may not be relevant to us as Muslims, but I still think they will be, inshallah. So, I mean, I didn't really know what a simp was until pretty recently as well. So it was one of those things where I came across some memes, on Instagram and stuff like that. And, little videos, you see these little videos on Instagram and, something, I don't know, something about a simp. And I'd sort of heard this word before. I think I had an idea what it was. So I sort of just looked it up to see, okay, what exactly is a simp? Yeah. And then I thought, wow, this would be a really interesting topic for us to discuss. And I guess from my point of view, I always try to think of things from different angles. Yeah. So, okay. So I guess let's first define what a simp is for anyone who's equally confused as you, Dr. Baker, bro. What's a simp? So a simp is just, I guess on the simple slang sort of level, it seems to be a slang word, that it's just a person who is so submissive to a woman, even when he's being abused by her and, taken advantage, and he's just totally submissive to it, that every other man is just cringing watching what's happening. Yeah. So that on one level is a simp. I guess even further, like a sort of further definition, which is the same thing, but taking it a bit further, it's that when he's excessively submissive and emotionally sympathetic, and even though a woman will be taking advantage of him and she's not reciprocating, right? So it's not like she's sympathetic to him. She's just, in a sense, abusing him. And he just takes it. And it seems to be that one of the reasons, or the motivating reason for him doing this, and this adds a different angle, yeah, is just exploitative. He just wants to have sex with her, basically, and he's using this as a sort of ploy. I'm not sure how it works because I'm not, but I guess, I suppose there is that ploy that you could actually, some women might actually like a man or take advantage of a man or whatever it is, I don't know, who is extremely submissive and will take all sorts of abuse from her. And I guess, are there any women out there who find that attractive, or would want to have sex with a guy like that? I don't know, because obviously I guess you and me live in a different realm now, which is the realm of marriage and family, and that's where we keep these relationships too. But we don't need to be naive. I'm sure there are Muslims engaging this, and I'm sure that also, I suppose, you could just carry this on into the whole dimension of marriage, because for me it opens up a bigger conversation about, you know, are Muslim men these days very simpish, right? I've seen some of our brothers, you know, who have got a bit of a bad rep for being sort of quite alpha male, you know, on Instagram. I won't mention any names, you know, although unfortunately sometimes they're just, people don't bother to actually listen to what they're saying. Yeah.
Right.
But you know, this whole sort of thing where men are being picked on and attacked by their wives, and they just sort of put up with it and behave in a sort of, I guess, what would be called a simpish or wimpish way. It's like a lot of people are looking at it and say, be a man, for God's sake, stand up. What the hell are you behaving so submissively? So I think that's the whole conversation. And but from my other, you know, looking at it from the other angle, right? And this, so I'm looking at it now from the other angle. Is this from the other angle, however, is this just criticism of men who have now become emotionally intelligent and who are now sympathetic and in touch with women's feelings, as like we sort of have to be these days as partners, right? These binary sort of role-playing models, we've discussed this again. Is this really reality? Doesn't a man have to be in a sense, you know, he has to be his partner's best friend. He has to be, you know, we don't have that sort of wide network where you can just, you know, like you have to play all of these roles. And so is it just these alpha males who are unable, well, I use that alpha male, right? Not in the real proper sense, but you know, in a sort of exaggerated sense, these sort of macho men, I suppose, yeah, who are unable to display any type of proper emotions towards women, and are pretty misogynistic. Look at a guy who's actually quite empathetic, quite sympathetic. You know, he's not just gonna, you know, tell his wife, shut up or I'm going to hit you every time she opens her mouth. And they look at him and think, oh, you're a simp. Yeah. Where he's not. He's just a guy who's actually a bit woken up to reality and is in touch with, you know, his emotional feelings. Which one is it, bro? This is my question. And I'm sort of like, we've had such amazing interactions from the audiences as well. I think last week was just brilliant because it was, for me, it was like I almost got more out of the audience, our listeners, than I did from our own conversation. So that's it. I guess we're opening it up, aren't we, bro? So I'm interested to hear what you think, what your thoughts are, what our listeners,
And I think, yes, I think you're right. I concur with what you said about last week and the previous weeks. But what you said is interesting in that it's new phrases, new terminologies for things that have existed for years. And you've given a good example of two polarized perspectives, and the misogynistic, macho, archaic kind of perception of men that some are trying to still hold on today is dated and it's wrong. But the pendulum swing to the other side is also an issue. And I want to bring in, like, before I became a Muslim, I remember when growing as a young man, and my mum said something to me. My mum from South America, Guyana, she said to me, "Never be a jackass for a woman." This is my mum telling me this. I was like, "Jackass? What does she mean by?" And she meant, she goes, basically, don't be a simp. If you're using today's words, like, just don't be a jackass for a woman.
So what did she mean by that, bro? Exactly.
What she meant by that is that do not let a woman take advantage of you, and you become passive, and you no longer know what it is to be a man as she raised me to be a man, or the societal understanding and perspectives of a man. And so she didn't want me to be the other way, because, as I've mentioned previously, she said, treat women as you'd like your mother and your sister to be treated. I was living in a household. My mum was the one, and the matriarch, and my sister, my brother. So it wasn't as though she was saying be macho, because if she felt that I was being a bit too misogynistic or dominant, she wouldn't stand for that either. I'm very strong-minded, but she wanted to see men knowing their identity in my brother and me, and she didn't want to see this man who was passive, because he even knew that he had to be that way to get intimate with the woman that he wanted to be with. It's like, if I'm she's going to give me the cookie, as they would say in American terms, or whatever, or that child behaving really well because he wants mum and dad to buy him the sweets that he wants, and men taking on that particular characteristic or that kind of persona. They're acting like big kids in a way, but it's not sweets or other tangibles in that sense. It's the level of intimacy that they want from the woman, and the woman, knowing they want this intimacy, will treat them in any particular way that they want. I know some women have that phrase. I was told this from a few years ago. We knew that treat them mean to keep them keen. Okay, and some women will behave in that way. So, and some men will like, okay, to get what I want, I'm going to allow this treatment to come forward, or I love the woman so much that I'm going to let her walk all over me and treat me in the way that I want to be treated. And this.
Yep.
There's a term we had, which I'm not going to use it in this term. This is back in the day before I was Muslim, but this is the characteristic type of man. Is the type of a man or individual that is not respected by either male or female. Now, if we're talking about someone who is empathetic to the woman's needs, that's different. We're moving now away from either polarization, and we can talk further on in the show about the examples that we see with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, examples of Umar radiallahu and these individuals. If we're talking about that empathy with regards to the wife's needs, requirements, everything, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But when it's as you have described, you've got this passivity in the man, this weakness in the man. I say weakness in the area that the woman talks to him, treats him as he wants. But there may be a reason for that as well. The man may be so cowed or so fed up with the conflict with his wife that he just doesn't speak anymore. And I'll give you an extreme example, Abdurraheem. A neighbor, when I was living in the UK and I used to live at my mum's, or no, I've moved out from my mum's now. The neighbors across the road, there's a working class family across the road. Nothing wrong with that. And we all are, most of us. But what happened is she was really loud-mouthed. You could hear her. She was really foul-mouthed, everything. The swearing, the effing, the blinding. And there's this really quiet husband. And they'd been together for years. They've got children, son and daughter, not particularly pleasant. But he was always quiet. The husband was always quiet, silent, smile, head down, everything. One day I went round to visit my mum and I saw the police cordons there, lines, tapes and everything. And I said to my brother's looking at me sort of incredulous, said, what happened? He said he bludgeons his wife to death. Sorry, tongue-tied. He basically got crazy. And the downstairs in the living room, it was just like a bloodbath. He'd completely lost it with his wife. And whatever the trigger was, or whatever the last straw was what caused him. Walaikum salam, brother Jordan. Good to see you with us again. So he'd completely lost it, and he had been that passive, silent, meek individual that something had flipped for him. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case in every instance, but those are cases where the man has been henpecked, he is henpecked, he is nagged, okay, and he's lived that particular existence. I won't consider such an individual a simp in the definition that's been given there. So we do need to look at those exceptions to the rule. But coming back to what you're saying about a simp now, and I'll come back to you. The question has got to be, why would a man in his right mind want to adopt such a persona with a woman? Again, on the flip side, conversely, why would a man want to be misogynistic, dominating to the extent that his wife or his wife's voice in this example is silenced or muted, or she is in fear of physical, mental, spiritual abuse from him if she expresses herself? Why would we as men want to be at either end of the spectrum? Willfully.
I think the thing is, bro, is that maybe it comes back to those things, is that sometimes we try to create these, it's sort of a little bit like that discussion we had about mental health. And I was questioning the whole way that we measure what mental health is in the first place. And it's just like this increasing opening of doors of what was in this book, of what is supposedly mental illnesses, is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. and like until things that no one would have thought 50 years ago was even considered to be mental health is now
Right.
considered to be some sort of, some sort of disease now, right?
Right. Right.
And again, I think it's almost like this idea that there is this sort of perfect balance that you have to achieve between everything, whereas maybe it's absolutely fine for different people to have different relationships, and
Right.
if it works for them, it works for them. So for example, look, like I know that in some African countries, for example, they're very matriarchal, right? It seems counterintuitive, and even though men may have many wives, but in fact women run the show, they run the
Right.
businesses. Yeah,
Right.
they're very much in charge, and it doesn't really make the men any less men,
It
right?
doesn't. No.
It's just women are very vocal, they're very powerful, they run businesses, and like no one minds, everyone gets on with it, and no one thinks the men are any less men, because of that. It's just that it's a society that really empowers women, and takes advantage of really excellent qualities women have and employs them, right? And I think just different societies have different paradigms, right? And I guess where we live in the West, where we have so many cultures, we have these melting pots, right? And where I suppose in a way it's sort of weird that nothing is supposed, like everyone in a sense is sort of almost supposed to be free to do whatever they want and be whatever they want and be however they want and live whatever way they want. Yet at the same time, so on one hand, that's this sort of, even to the extent that if you feel like your gender is different, or you, anyway, I didn't quite get the whole gender thing, but like yeah, you feel your gender is different, you should be able to express that, even to the extent of having surgery and changing your gender. So that's to how which that's the extent to which people are supposed to be free to be fluid in how they express their relationships and interactions with each other. That's all I'm saying. That's the only point I'm saying. Yet on the other hand, we have this paradox that somehow there is this ideal that everyone has to live up to, and if you don't live up to this ideal, there's something wrong with you. Well, is it a paradox, or is it just a plain simple contradiction? Right? I don't know, bro. So the thing is that you see, that I guess that's implicit in my question that I wanted to put forward for today's discussion, right? And I guess underlying it all is that question I'm asking again and again, is that and I just think it's important for us to look at these things through different lenses, because I think it helps us to analyze and to think about stuff deeply. Yeah. And I think
I
that's
think,
what's
I think
important. I was
this is
listening to something really interesting today, and I don't like this business partner of Warren Buffett. I don't know what I can't remember the guy's name, because it was a very brief thing. Some video I was watching, and he said that he never has an opinion or states he has an opinion on something until he has studied the other side of the argument, and he can expound the other side of the argument so strongly that it's actually better. He can expound it better than the person who believes in that other side of the argument, right? And if you remember Ibn al-Qayyim, he's famous for that, right? In his books, when he's discussing fiqh opinions, when he discusses a particular opinion, you read it and you'll be thinking, oh my gosh, so this is the right opinion. And then he goes on to analyze it, why he thinks that opinion is wrong and what he thinks the right opinion is. But he's so sincere and he's so honest in trying to get to the root of why a person is offering a particular position or an opinion, that he sort of expounds it as if he was a scholar of that position himself. And in a sense, bro, I think we should do that with everybody and everything, right? In the sense that we should, maybe it would undercut the sort of viciousness that there can be about stuff, and really sort of get to a level of understanding. So I mean,
I
for me,
hear
I
what you're
guess for
saying.
me, it's like I would want to understand, why is a man behaving like that? So I'm trying to think, well, why would a man behave like that? Is he because he's a simp? Yeah. Is he because he's this just wimpy character? He's not a real man. He can't stand up for, or maybe he's just, well, like you said, you gave an example, which is, I guess, an extreme example, but it does allow us to illustrate the point, and that's of a man who's so emotionally abused that he's just become super submissive. right?
Right.
But it could be, it could look in a certain way to an outside observer, but it just may be that this guy really likes this woman, he loves her, right? I mean, the thing that got me thinking, bro, is that I look back on this girl that I was crazy about in Jahiliyyah before I was Muslim, right? I was just totally mad about her, yeah. And I remember some of my behaviors. If someone had seen me, they would have said, "You're a simp," right? They would have said that
Mm.
about me. And I looked at it and I look back and I think, oh my God, that's like simpish behavior. Although I wasn't behaving like that really necessarily because I wanted to have sex with her, right? I like my I really genuinely like cared about her a huge amount. I just really just liked her hugely as a person and whatever. And yeah, I guess, as a young person, it's
See,
all
what you're
confused
saying
in
there
your
is fine.
mind between, huh?
Yeah, what you're saying is fine. An apex predator, I
Yeah,
just mentioned that as well. That some would say if they saw his behaviour, that that some would consider him being simpish around women. But those who know
yeah.
him know that he's not that. And I
Mm,
understand that. Having be caring from I've been with my wife, as you know, since before Islam as well. And when you become attracted and attached to someone, you're ready to concede ground that you may ordinarily hold and others know you to hold and everything. That's
yeah.
not simpish. But where it is that whatever she's saying and she's doing it deliberately, you can see that she's basically got you around her little finger and she's
Mm,
pushing and pulling, and you're just coming backwards and forwards like that because you don't want to lose her or you want to be close to her or you
mm,
just that's how you want to be to exist with her despite how she's treating you. And I'll give you another example, Abdurraheem. When I was at college, there was a young lady there, and beautiful young lady. She had a partner there, nice guy. He was really quiet, good looking, had things going for him, but they were a unit. And she was very loud and flamboyant, and she
yeah.
took a liking to one of my friends as well. Nothing happened there, but she would do things like that, show this interest in other men, move in this
Mm,
direction, that direction. And he just took it. She didn't, I'm not saying anything further went other than flirting, but she'd do that. He'd learn
mm,
about it in college, we'd be in the college refectory together. And then one day we heard, did you hear what happened to X, let's say his name was? I said, what do you mean?
mm,
And they were going over Putney. He was going in a cab with her. They were coming back from somewhere over Putney Bridge. The car was in, the taxi was in traffic. He just got out of the car without pausing, walked without pausing, got up onto the bridge, jumped into the river and killed himself. No pause. She was sat in the car, traumatized by that. Okay. And we were, everyone, the
mm,
conclusion was look at how much he put up with her, but why didn't he make a stand? Why didn't he do something before like this? So I've talked about two cases where one's killed his partner and the other one committed suicide. Now, the passivity that
mm.
some may adopt, as you said, it may not be necessarily simpish, but I want to bring it to another area where we're in today, where you hear men falling over themselves to say, I am a feminist. I have aspects of
Yep,
feminism.
yep.
And I'm sorry, I don't get that. Okay, from where I'm from, I don't get that.
Mm,
And I don't feel, and some may shoot me down on this, no, being a feminist doesn't mean that you're female or you're like this. I know it doesn't. But when in yesteryear, Abdurraheem, were we asked to say we are feminists, we have femininity in us, or we have feminist feelings and stuff like that? In the same way, when have we said to women, no, you need to show masculine traits and to show you have masculinity in you? So for me, it's like things have become these terminologies, this discussion. The reason we're having this discussion more so now is because roles have become obscured, as we've mentioned before. Roles have become obscured. Someone's mentioned there, one of the sisters, that a lot of women are going out to work and the men are at home looking after
yeah.
the kids. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that if that happens to be the economic setup at any given time. But we'll come back to what it is the simp the one who is willfully passive, weak, malleable to everything that the woman wants? And in actuality, if we were to close our eyes and close our ears, you think that the woman was the man in the original traditional gender roles, and you think the man
Yeah.
was the woman in the traditional gender role. And I'm going to stop on this point to let you go, because this is evoking a lot of memories. There was an Eddie Murphy movie. Okay, I didn't really like it, but Back
Yeah.
in the day, there was an Eddie Murphy movie where he was the epitome of what is a simp now, because he was when he was meeting the women, he wanted her to be, she had to be perfect, she had to be strong, and he was malleable towards the women, and he even had effeminate actions and behavior with regards to women just to make sure he found the right woman. He was, I don't know what the name of the film was, I can't remember it, but he, if anyone, I'm not saying advocating to watch movies and stuff, but if anyone saw this, now I'm seeing that epitomized what a simp was and looked like. And it brings to me in mind, Abdurraheem, stopping at this point, one other aspect. We're told by the Prophet ﷺ
Yeah.
not to be like the duyuth with
Yeah.
regards to women, not to be like the pimp. And the duyuth was the
Mm.
one who doesn't mind, he's if he's in the marketplace, he doesn't mind all and sundry looking at his wife. When he's out, he's got no ghaira or no protectiveness. And we're not saying
Yeah.
possessive protectiveness over it. He doesn't care. Anyone can talk to him
Yeah,
the
I
right.
mean, I think, yeah, to be frank, if you're, he doesn't care if someone has sex with his wife, basically. I think that's the proper definition. And
Right,
then, of course, it has, you know, you could say lower levels, right?
right,
So
yeah,
the proper level of a dayuth as a cuckold is someone who doesn't care if someone has sex with his wife or not,
right,
basically. And then obviously different levels of it would be he doesn't care who flirts with his wife, or, you know, I guess whatever, like you could say if you were super strict, like, you know, you know, he doesn't care if someone sees his wife's bracelet. Here's his wife's bracelet jingle. It
right.
depends on what you want to go down the thing.
But
So I
some
think the
women
point
allow
being,
that.
you're right.
Some women
For me, I think that's where a simp, that's what it seems to be, where it would ultimately end up, you know. And obviously
yeah,
we had that
yes,
discussion when we were discussing about this topic. And you know, I've seen some documentaries and stuff like about polyamorous,
amorous.
polyamorous relationships. Yeah. And I do remember seeing that in some of these instances, the guys, to be honest, it seemed to be exactly what they were. I don't know if they cared or not. Did they? I'm not even sure if they cared, or they were, maybe they did care, but they were just so weak, and they were so dependent upon this woman, and they, you know, maybe they could. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's exactly what we're saying. They're so wimpish, right? That they were just hanging around because they just wanted their piece of the pie whenever they were going to get it, right? And if his wife was going off doing whatever, it's just like either he was going to put up with it, or he genuinely, maybe he didn't even care. And I don't know, because I don't know the Arabic well enough. What does it mean? Caring, does it mean he actually genuinely doesn't care? I mean, I guess there are some men who pimp out their women, literally pimp their women out,
Right.
right? Will
I knew
happily
people.
sell their
I knew
women
people like
stuff
that.
for a
Abdurrahim,
lot.
again, back in the day, I knew some of my circles.
Yeah.
Their girlfriends, they pimped them out, and the girlfriends loved them that
I
much.
think that's not what a simp is, right? A simp
No,
is not like
it
a
isn't.
simp. Like, I guess that's almost the opposite.
Right.
Almost the
Yeah,
opposite, right? Isn't it? A pimp is someone who is so emotionally detached and so brutal, and so, I mean, like, he does that really basically for money, right? But a
that's right.
cuckold is someone who he's not selling her for money. He's not prostituting his
No,
wife. He's not pimping her out. He
okay.
just,
Yeah,
when he says it, when it said, when the prophet says, well, when, I don't know what the thing means, because a dayuth has a meaning, right? So I don't know if it means caring here simply just means he doesn't do anything about it. Because I guess if you cared, like, if you really have iman, you'd pray 5 times a day, right? If you really cared about had some honor towards your wife, you would not tolerate it. You'd divorce that person or whatever, right?
but then Abdurrahim, let's look at a wider context, though. This is
Yeah.
excellent where we've got to. How much has society affected this relationship? Because, for example, that simp,
Yeah.
he may be that way, or let's say, and the next category of someone being passive, because
Mm.
society so much favors the woman and the woman's rights now.
Yeah.
You just have to use particular trigger words, and if he's in a relationship, and she complains to the authorities using any terminology, or there's children involved, let's be really careful when we're looking at this now. Let's really focus on this. If you've got children from that woman, for example, and you feel or sense that she will turn at any moment and take your children from you. This has happened to brothers as well, where
Yeah.
saying how you're a disciplinarian, for example, or you're strict in, or you've got traditional values, for example, and those traditional values are not in line with today's society. So
Yeah.
if you're saying that one of us needs to go out to work, as the man, I'm going to go out and work, I'll do the struggling and everything like that, and she says, no, I want liberation, I want to be one earning the bread and doing the money and everything like this, you look after the kids, conflict starts coming in. He's more decisive in things, but the woman doesn't like that. But she goes to society and says mental abuse, domestic abuse, emotional abuse. He knows that's going to happen. He knows
Yeah.
that the system is going to be against
I
him,
think that's
especially
different though, isn't it?
no.
Yeah.
But Abdurraheem, and while it's different, some men have adopted. It's better that I do not resist in this way because I've got too much to lose. It's better that I stay in these circumstances and
But
appease
I
the
think,
woman.
look, yeah, I get what you're saying, bro. It's not different. I get what you're saying, but look, I mean, look, anyone, I obviously, I'm sure both you and me have dealt with people, quite a lot of cases of people who've come to us seeking advice, and I'll be honest, I think part of being, I think being a real man. I suppose part of the problem is this. Maybe I'm putting myself forward as I think I'm a real man, but I think part of the tightrope of walking that, it is a tightrope. Yeah, it's that tightrope of being a real man is both simultaneously being emotionally intelligent, yet at the same time realizing, I guess what Allah says, that your wife and your children, your family are a fitna. They are a test, they are a trial. Yeah. They're a test of whether you're going to obey Allah or not. And they can be a fitna in many different ways. They can make you stingy with your wealth, they can make you not charitable. But also that's another part of the fitna, is that you can submit yourself to all sorts of dishonorable, humiliating, disrespectful situations for the sake of the love of your children, right?
Right.
And listen, I mean, I'll be honest to you, bro, and to everyone, and I guess you might be the same. We might have mentioned this before, and to everyone out there, I love my kids to bits. I do love my kids. When I'm with them, I play with them, I love them, and I do love them. But literally, I can walk out of the door and not think about them at all. I could be in another country and I will not think of my wife. I will not even cross my mind. Yeah. Like literally, it's almost as if they don't exist. That may be to do with, I guess, the way I've programmed myself to live, to be a person. I mentioned this before as well, who is living very much in the experience of this moment right now. Yeah.
Right.
I believe in experiencing the intensity of the present. And I guess when you are experiencing the intensity of what you're experiencing right now, you don't have room to be thinking too much about, what else. But I guess there are a lot of people, so for me, I think I could do that. I could literally switch off. I could walk out of my family tomorrow and not think of them again.
And
Literally,
many have done that.
I could switch my mind off like that. And
What you said,
I've said to people, they say, "Oh, what is that?" I said, "But don't men have to be able to do that? How do they fight wars? How do they go to fight battles? How do they go out hunting and, know you may never return? Surely this is surely after thousands of years, Allah, of human development, Allah has made us like that. We have to be like that, right?" So I think this is part of the thing, is this is a fitna. When you say to me, "Oh, this brother's doing this and this because of his kids and he loves his kids so much," and it's like be a man, right? How did you get yourself to that position that you are that attached to anyone or anything, right? Be attached to Allah. That's what I would say. Be the only one that you should be that attached to is Allah and your relationship with Allah. Nothing else is worth it. Not your kids, not your wife, not your whatever, right? And I guess I trained myself, bro. I would sometimes sit in the car thinking, what if my kid died? What if I, got home and my kid had choked on a, fishbone, right? It could happen. Well, how are you going to behave, Abdurraheem? Right? Are you going to scream and wail and like you're going to be depressed for the next 20 years and this and that? So it's like you train yourself for these things to realize that Allah could test you with anything. How are you going to behave? And that's one of those things, right?
And
And if you're
Abdurraheem,
not
just
like that, if you don't train yourself to be like that, people will take advantage of you. They will.
exactly. Now, Abdurraheem, what you're saying, I'm
Sorry, I
like
went
you.
on too long, bro.
No,
Sorry.
no, I think it's very important what you said. You
Yeah.
mentioned that previously as well, and we are similar. When I travel,
Oh, wait a minute.
I
Someone said that is not from the Sunnah. What's not
no, no,
from the Sunnah?
like if they're saying it's not from the Sunnah, then I'll bring that. Remember, one of the things that we know that Shaitan whispers
Yeah.
to the Mujahid on the battlefield to make
Yeah.
him weak is he tries to stoke memories of his family while
Yeah.
he's away. Okay, so what you're saying, I relate to that because I'm similar. When I've traveled,
Yeah.
I'd only speak to my wife because I'm not going to focus on my kids. Just want to check that everything's okay. And as you said, I'm in the moment. But there's another thing as well. I mentioned to you before. I think I've mentioned it to you before. If not, I mention now. I'm not sure if it's the same with white men or Asian men or whatever. But sometimes in black cultures, people say about absent fathers. No, many of us are present. But I can relate or understand when a man says, actually, enough is enough. I don't need to tolerate or to cow to certain things that are being put on me. I'm walking. Now, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that that's the responsible thing to do, but I can understand that logic in I'm not going to succumb or to lower my standards and when I say standards, maybe that's not the right word, my sense of self, my self-worth
Mm.
to behave in a way that is not becoming to me
Yeah.
and not becoming to me as a man. And if
Mm.
this is what is required by my wife, by the environment that I'm in, to simp up, as it were, I'd rather ship out.
Yeah.
Yeah, simp
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
or ship out.
Definitely.
I'll ship out
Definitely.
because really, at the end
Yeah.
of the day, fantastic questions that have been asked. And one of the sisters, Ibtisam, asked a question: is the modern woman making or producing simp men? And I would say, looking again with the support of society and the expectations of women, which has moved away from what we know of previous values, traditional
Mm.
values, yes, there is an element of today's woman.
And I think one of the comments, bro, said one of the people, one of the brothers or sisters commenting says, I guess it was a sister saying that she knows women who want simps. They actually look for them,
Yes,
right? And they perhaps they're very busy women in powerful jobs, I suppose, and they just want some man they can boss around, and they're quite happy with that. And maybe the man is quite happy. They both have their physical needs taken care of, right?
or dependency, Abdurraheem. I'll give you
Yeah,
another example. I know these examples.
yeah,
A sister moves from a relationship, a brother and sister break up from a relationship because he is an alpha male, balanced, maybe more strongly on the masculine side.
yeah,
And initially, the woman wanted that because of the absent father and
yeah.
wanted somebody to care for her. But as she grows, okay, and this has happened a few times, sisters that I've met,
Mm,
brothers in the circumstances I've come across, as she grows, she becomes more independent. Society affords things to her. So then what she wants someone who's needy and dependent upon her. He could have a drug habit. He could be an alcoholic. He can be someone who's poor with his money, and he always comes. And if you remember that
mm,
movie, what was the movie called? I can't remember what it's called. But one of the actors, he played that simp role really well. Not only with the women he was with, but he also showed that dependency that he needed to get that money to get his drug and everything. Samuel L. Jackson played that part. Brilliant. I
mm.
can't remember what the movie was, but he played that brilliantly. He simped up, and basically when he needed that
Bro,
thing,
you're getting a hang of this word now, bro. Before
I
this,
am.
you didn't even know it. Now it's like a part of your vocab, bro.
You know us from South London. We
Yeah,
take we
yeah.
own the
Simped up, bro.
vocabulary. So he simped up to, and basically
Yeah.
became how that woman wanted him to be. So the sister saying that women want simps. They want
Some
that
do,
because they
yeah.
want
Some,
someone
some.
dependent. Some women, they
Yeah,
want them
some.
dependent upon them. They want them dependent upon them,
Yeah,
needy upon them, because it
yeah.
validates them. That's how they feel validated. If you're
Mm,
not that, and you're independent and you've got clear demarcations as to who you are and who she is in your life or whatever, they feel
Yeah, she
insecure. They
needs a puppy, not a man.
there you go. Thank you,
Yeah,
Trust. She wants a
yeah,
puppy, not a man. And so
yeah,
basically, that neediness is something that validates her. And there are
yeah,
some men who are like that. And there are some men who are ready to play that part to show,
yeah,
I'll be that needy man for you. So
yeah.
that's problematic because it's not only the man being that, it's the woman requiring that to feel
But
validated.
then I
And
would put the other point, let me put the other argument, bro, is that why do we have to judge this guy, right? Maybe he is just ready to meet her emotional needs and it doesn't bother him, right? Why is that a problem? Why is it a
good
problem?
question.
Is it a problem simply because you and me have preconceived notions of what it means to be a man and how people should behave, and we're imposing them upon other people? Because at the end of the day, if he's happy with it, if he's ready to put up with this stuff, right? Because maybe he is woke and he's emotionally aware and like it doesn't bother him, right? In the same way, bro, look, how many sheikhs, yeah, you and me, bro, know we've been around the block lots of times. We've been around a long time, yeah. How many sheikhs in the past and probably until today, yeah, still advise our sisters who are being beaten and abused and mistreated by their husbands, oh, be patient, put up with it. Look how Asiya was with Fir'aun, this and that, whatever, right? And wait a minute, how many sisters put up with it? How many sisters put up with their husband's abuse,
Mm.
emotional, you know, anger, temper tantrums? I've definitely done it. Alhamdulillah. Hopefully,
Yeah,
I haven't done it.
yeah,
I definitely haven't done it all the time. Yeah. But I mean, look, I guess both me and that happens anyway to human beings. But like for sometimes it's a man's doing it all the time. It's like you're looking at it and you're embarrassed, just saying, why are you talking to your wife like that? And she puts up with it and she's very passive. He may even be having affairs and this and that and whatever, and she'll put up with it. And
mm,
she'll put up with all of that. Now you and me can say, oh, well, what are we going to say? In fact, many sheikhs would say, yes, good sister, that's very good. You should be like that. You should be whatever. That's exactly how you should be. Be patient. But if a man behaves like that, it's not
right.
acceptable. Why should
Yeah.
she? Why? Why is it acceptable for her to put up with it, whereas a man shouldn't put up with that? Who says?
Yeah, very true. And that's a good point. I think Matteo asked the question, are we confusing hikmah and wisdom and patience for being a simp? I don't think so,
No,
Matteo.
no.
No, with hikmah and patience, that's a totally different paradigm.
Yeah,
It's good that you've asked that question because we have to be clear here. As we started off, Abdurraheem, having empathy, having
yeah,
understanding, having a conciliatory approach with regards to our partners and then with us, wives and husbands. There's nothing wrong with that. I want to be really clear when how I've
yeah,
understood simp today is that overarching passivity where she can do absolutely anything, and even if you want to resist, you choose and opt not
yeah,
to appease her,
yeah,
to be everything she wants to be or wants you to be. And that's the key thing here, what she wants you to be.
yeah,
Okay. um and don't get me wrong, some would say, well, my wife buys clothes for me and she likes me to wear certain clothes. That's fine, I like that, my wife does that with me. But
yeah,
I've met
yeah, yeah.
individuals,
No, obviously these are
I've met
yeah.
individuals men who
Mm.
they've never bought their own clothes, and they tell me, so their underwear, their socks, their clothes. They say to me, "My wife buys it. She chooses my clothes," and they're sort of smiling at me, and I'm sort of thinking, "What the hell?" So I said,
Yeah.
"So what about the shoes?" No, no, my wife
Well,
buys
you
all.
know what, bro? If you got terrible
That's an
taste
extreme.
and
That's an extreme for me.
you can't match a shirt with your pants, and your wife can do it, then
No,
that's
it's not
fine.
that,
She's your
Abdurraheem.
fashion,
It's nothing
you
to
know,
do with
guru,
that.
whatever. Yeah.
Abdurraheem, I knew these individuals before, and they are sharp dressers.
Oh, right.
They know what they want
Okay.
to. So my thing is like, hold on, you used to dress dapper dan. We respected you back in the day for the dressing and everything, and now you're telling us you've consigned all of that to history, and you're what? And you know what, Abdurraheem, I have to say this now. If you see some of the garments that they're wearing, like they're wearing skinny jeans when they've got beer guts, for example, and so my wife likes to see me in this, and I'm thinking, you don't look good. You're wearing stuff. You look constipated. What you're wearing, you actually look constipated. But they're doing that to appease it. And I'm not saying that means you're a simp. So brothers, there may be brothers, there may be sisters.
Yes, you are, bro. You're saying, just be honest. That's simpish. Simpish. Bro, that's exactly that is it. You gotta be honest, bro, because that is the definite. Like, I'm not saying he is a simp, yeah. And I think, like, with a lot of these things, we can obviously spot simpish, what we might call simpish behavior. It doesn't mean like any one of us could be simpish about something sometimes, yeah, right? And like, I think clearly what you want to say is, bro, in this instance, you're being simpish, yeah?
Yes.
Grow a beard, yeah? Be a man, and, you know, like, you know, dress yourself, right? I think that's what you want to say, honestly.
No, that's right. I think
not that he's a simp, right? But in this particular area, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's what it is. I mean, that's a really good illustration where that's exactly what it is, where someone like you is looking at that. And like, it's interesting because you know how that guy was in the past. You know how he used to be. Like, so like I said, yeah, well, you know, and you said, no, bro, he was a sharp dresser. He used to, you know, he used to look good. And now he looks like an idiot. And his wife's making him wear that. And that's exactly it. You feel uncomfortable. You are looking at him and saying, bro, what is happening to you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what being a simp is about. When when other men are looking at him and his behavior and thinking, that's it. Look, I'll be honest, bro. I know that one of my dear friends, mashallah, beloved Sheikh, you know him well, by the way, and really, honestly, he's one of the most beautiful human beings I know, mashallah. But I know that probably deep inside himself, and he would never say it, but he looks at the amount of time I spend in the kitchen cooking, and like sometimes I will cook all the food. And look, I actually really enjoy cooking. I actually really enjoy it, yeah. And like sometimes my wife is like exhausted, she like whatever. So I do but I know some people will look at me and say, "What are you doing? Like, what a simp, yeah? Like, get out of the kitchen and let your wife get in there and do her job." And I'm sure deep down inside, people are looking at me and my behavior and thinking, like, this is too much, Abdurraheem. Even he will say to me, "This is too much, Abdurraheem. This is too much."
Now, see, Abdurraheem, but what you're saying there, for me, that doesn't equate with simpish, being simpish at all. Or being
no, I can see how people would think it is, though, bro. Honestly, from
but
certain cultures, they would look at it.
Then we've got to look at what construct are they thinking about?
Yeah, it's the culture, bro. From a culture where a man doesn't go in the kitchen, like man is not allowed in the kitchen. In some cultures, women do not let men in the kitchen. They will literally kick them out. It's like, you want something? Ask me what it is. Don't come in here. This is my domain. Get out of here.
Okay. Yeah. Culturally, yes, I understand that. And as you said earlier on, from culture to culture, the definition, like for example, we know as you said, in some African countries, the men are sitting around smoking and drinking, and the women are in the field. I've seen that, and the women in the field plowing the field. And if you said to the men, "You go out," and the women come back, they say, "No, our husbands are useless." Jokingly, they're useless. This is the thing that we do. Obviously, the men, that is the matriarchal aspect of that particular society. So you're right when you're talking about culture. But now I want to move to the point, because with the other part of what we do, is it wonderfully woke? Now my question is, what does wonderfully woke mean? And to be honest with you, I don't want to be wonderfully woke, because that again it's almost similar. It obscures being simpish and wonderfully woke. I think they're almost one in the same thing.
No, but I would say, you see, okay, to be honest, bro, I hate the term woke anyway. Yeah, because it's a misuse of the English language. So when someone says woke, I say, no, awakened is the right word to use. So like, that's the first thing, like, stop messing up the English language. Woke. I hate that term as a term. But I think, no, woke means, like, in the sense that, you move out of a very binary understanding of how people are and their emotions are, and you just become a little bit more open-minded, to, I guess, to different ways of living. And I guess that's what it comes down to. Like, so I could say that, look, here's the crazy thing, bro. Here's the crazy thing. Yeah. The same Sheikh, I think honestly, right? Despite he may look at me and think, yeah, you're being a simp here, right? He would actually really like his daughters to live in a house like my house. He wouldn't
That's
want his own daughters to be subjected to his
right,
version of what he
right,
thinks and how he thinks things should be, right? Because you look at it and you think that's not a nice way to live, because the daughter will go to university, she will study, she will get a degree, yeah. And that's what I'm saying, bro, right? Is that on one hand, the weird thing is that a person will be thinking, oh, what a simp, yet at the same time you'd be thinking, well, I wouldn't really want my daughter to be living in this sort of macho world that I have. And I guess that's the realization when you have this contradiction. And that's one of the beautiful things of, you know, getting married and having kids. And one of the great things about having daughters, daughters are such a blessing. And especially if you love them, it opens your mind up to what really you what it means to be a man. Because you
right.
start thinking, what sort of husband do I want for my daughter? Well,
Exactly,
wait a minute, what sort of husband am I for my wife, right?
yeah,
Am I the husband to my wife that I want for my daughter? That's a good
yes,
question to ask, right? And genuinely, you know, I always try to think like that. I honestly, genuinely try to treat any woman in the way that I would like my daughters to be treated. Yeah.
and
And
Abdurraheem,
you know,
what
it's
you
a
said
bit
is really
weird, bro.
important. No, it
Huh?
isn't weird. What you said is really
It is a
important.
bit weird because you know what? Like, I really struggle with polygamy because I always start thinking like if any woman reminds me of any way of one of my daughters, it's like
Yeah,
you
no,
know, I
that
just
that's
find it
yeah,
really
yeah,
weird.
and that and
You know, it's like
we're in trouble when that happens. But what you
yeah,
said, like for example, as you know, four of my daughters are married, mashallah, including my
yeah.
stepdaughter, and the last three got
Mashallah,
married,
mashallah.
mashallah. All three of them
May
spoke
Allah
to me.
bless them.
Really nice what they said. They said, Dad, but my last one, the oldest one, wrote to me recently. And she said, "Thank you for showing and teaching us about what a man should be, a strong man,
Mm,
and a strong man in the sense that we can be ourselves and we are empowered, and we want to
yeah.
thank you for that." And you know what, Abdurraheem,
Mm,
that just hearing those words and in different ways from the three daughters over the 6 months, and
yeah.
seeing the husbands that they've married strong men. But those strong men, you should
Mashallah.
see how much they're in love with my daughters because
Yeah.
of their independence, intelligent,
Yeah.
empowered, and they've seen this is the
Yeah.
father of these daughters, and this is how he's raised and
Mm,
nurtured them. So what you're saying is absolutely right, and it brings me on to the next thing, which is
mm.
look at some of us as men. Some of us
Mashallah.
married
Mm,
sisters,
yeah.
and we wanted that idealistic. We had that I'd say abstract understanding where we said we want the wife to be in the home, not going out, cooking, doing all the dishes, this. We wanted that, and then what happened, Abdurraheem? Those of us who are more, let's say, intellectually astute and
Mm,
require more engagement, we saw the changes in our wives, thinking that that was what they wanted to fit into being the perfect ideal Muslim woman. And then when we
yeah.
met other women, maybe in work, maybe
Yeah.
in the public
Yeah.
space,
Yeah.
and they could be Muslim, they might be a
Mm,
little bit more liberal and open-minded. They've got their careers, they're working, they've got business, they're more outspoken, and suddenly our heads turn like, oh, I
yeah.
want
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and that then we start acting more simpish because of like, in order to move in that direction, I
Yeah.
can't behave like I've been behaving with my wife and
Yeah.
the radical and the traditional man. But in order to
Yeah.
move into
Yeah.
this and engage with this more intellectually outgoing, empowered woman, which we've
Yeah.
not no longer wanted from our wives, we have to become more simpish.
Yeah. 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 I mean,
That's
that's yeah. Yeah. I mean, what can I say, bro? Like, mashallah, it is. Absolutely. I had so many things spinning in my mind as you were saying that, and I was trying to read the comments as well. But yeah, subhanallah, definitely. And to go back to that whole thing about about the family, and it's very true, bro. What you said is absolutely true. But yeah, what I wanted to say is a powerful man is never afraid of a powerful woman, right?
no,
And who is
alhamdulillah.
more powerful as a man than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And let me ask everyone here, who did he love the most? Who did he love the most? And he would say it. He would say it. He used to say that he loved Aisha the most. and she was very powerful. She was an extremely powerful woman. She used to argue with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They would sit there arguing, right? I mean, the arguments would become so bad that the story when the Prophet called Abu Bakr in to arbitrate, subhanallah. I mean, so she was extremely astute, extremely intellectual. Like they said, there was nothing about the deen that they had a discussion except Aisha knew something about it. She would have some piece of information. She would have something to contribute. She was a scholar, subhanallah, extremely intellectually astute, mashallah. So yeah, real powerful men want and love and cherish, powerful women. We forget this, bro. This is
And they
something
don't
we
feel
forget.
certain by
And by the way, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was not out giving dawah or in a ghazwa or teaching or whatever, he was at home serving his family, sewing his own clothes, milking the goats, cleaning them, whatever, helping serving them, right? That's how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was.
And doing that, that's right. And the strong man, for example, some might think, look, you and I can afford to maybe put our clothes in the dry cleaners and get things done and all this sort of stuff and say to our wives, do the iron and everything like that. But following the Prophet ﷺ's example, do your own ironing, which I don't think anyone can iron better than me, actually. So no one does it in my house. Even my wife will say, no, I'll do my ironing, I'll do my shirts. And
it's therapeutic. One brother said he loves it. He says it's like meditation. It's therapeutic. Yeah.
But in that sense, there, why not alleviate? Take things from our wives, take things from that we can take on our shoulders, and that's not being simpish in that way. There, empathizing, having empathy. I'm not the best one with empathy in every instance, but being attentive and conscientious. This is very important. Being conscientious doesn't mean you're a simp. Being conscientious means, I don't want to even use the term woke. It means that you are aware, you have cognition of those who have feelings around you. You are cognizant of their feelings and everything. I just want to come back in this, Abdurraheem, because it's a bugbear for me as well. Yeah, seeing a man, wearing skinny jeans, and he's not skinny because his wife wants him to wear skinny jeans, and you're on my age and everything, and he's walking around thinking he looks really cool, and he's got this boyish hairstyle, and it doesn't suit him. It just makes his head look even fatter than it ordinarily is, and he's doing that because his wife likes that. That's simpish behavior.
Yeah,
and he's got these, and he's our age, and he's wearing no socks in his shoes or anything. And sometimes socks without shoes is okay, it's fashionable, but he's doing that and thinking he's 20 or something years younger, and his wife's enjoying him being like that. And I have to say to you, sister or non-Muslim woman who's in that circumstances, what are you doing? What are you thinking?
Bro, that's it, bro. That's what this podcast is all about, bro. Let it rip, bro. Fire those shots. Just get it off your chest.
I go out. I'm out with my wife, Abdurraheem. I'm going out, and I see these individuals walking with their bags, feeling really good about themselves. And I'm like, my wife sees the look on my face straight away, and she just goes, "Oh no!" And I'm like, skinny jeans. He's about 50. He's walking around with his wife, and she's ordering him or girlfriend, and he's doing yes, and look. And I'm thinking, you look really peculiar, and that's the polite way of saying it. Then they give you a look, and they give you a look of disdain. They look at you like, what's his problem? And there's that man code, like, don't you know you look like a complete jackass, to use my mum's phrase. You look like a jackass, but they can't see it. So my thing is, let's say this, Abdurraheem, simpish behavior, or what appears to be simpish behavior, when you're showing empathy, when you're showing conscientiousness, as long as it doesn't become the dominating characteristic, that I'm just going to be this passive, wimpish, simpish individual who, unlike my friend, and if he's watching this, I'm going to have a real good talk with him when I come back to London and say, I'm sorry. I had to
lay it out, bro. You just got to...
If your wife is telling you to wear stuff that is glowing, tight, and it does, and you don't have
not just tight, but glowing. Now that's it, bro. Tight is one thing, but glowing, I draw the line at the glowing, bro. Not pink.
Pink. No, Abdurraheem, pink is okay. Pink is cool because you can wear it. But what I'm saying, if you're wearing this gold glowing silver stuff, yeah, and it's tight,
Silver.
and you don't have a 6-pack anymore, Abdurraheem. You've got a 12-pack, and you're wearing that, and you're walking around all
the 1-pack, bro. The 1-pack. And no 6-pack. I got a 1-pack.
I can't even, you got me in the hysterics now. The one, exactly. And you think you're looking, now you are, gentlemen, you are the epitome of a simp, if that's what you're doing. If that's what you're doing. So I think we need to move away from simpish behavior. We need to move away from this misogynistic behavior. We need to come back to the nuanced behavior where empathy, everything. I've said this already a few times. And as you've mentioned, Abdurraheem, the Prophet ﷺ and his behavior with his family, how he was in the home. Umar ibn al-Khattab, and remember, a Sahaba was going to his home and he could hear the voice of Umar's wife raised against him, and he walked to and Umar spoke to him, and he said he didn't know that his wife spoke to him like that. He said, these are our wives, that this is how we discuss, this is how we basically argue. And that's Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu an, the one who, when Shaitan is walking down one side of the street, the Prophet ﷺ told him that they won't cross this. So no one would dare, because Iblis would dare call Umar ibn al-Khattab a simp. Shaitan crosses the road. But simpish behavior, and brothers, gentlemen who are watching this, stop simping up. It's not good for us as men. It's not good for the women as well. And ladies, please do not expect, yes, we want our men to, you want the men to validate you, but let them validate you because of the qualities that you possess. Let them validate you because of your self-worth and your self-assurance in that way. Don't make them into toys. Don't test them to say, if he's like this, then I'm going to show him.
Bro, this is just so, if this brother hears this, you know what it reminds me of, bro? You know these people who walk around with those little dogs, you know, those little show dogs.
Abdurraheem, I'm seeing that today. I'm seeing 6'4" Russian men and other men built, and I'm walking along the canal here where I'm living, and I'm seeing these little dogs that look like rats, okay, and they're walking along with them, and I'm looking. Now, I remember back in the day, we used to walk with Rottweilers, Dobermans, but you've got these little, they're not even, they're smaller than Chihuahuas. And the Chihuahua is small, Abdurraheem. So that now, and then you know why they're doing that, Abdurraheem? We know why. We used to say it's the pull factor. So they're walking with the dog, then they see this nice lady walking down the road as well, and along the beach, along the canal, and she's got a little dog, and the two little dogs start wagging their tails.
That's simpish, bro.
And so he's showing her, look, I'm with you. I get you. I'm simpish.
Bro, you've got it, bro. Listen, or to all our listeners to this podcast, Abdul Haqq, until this week, did not know what a simp was. And I'm telling you, Abdul Haqq, Dr. Abdul Haqq Baker, literally, he has enlightened me now about what a simp is. I mean, I think this is going to be the go-to podcast on the planet to understand what a simp really is, from the mouth of a guy who didn't know what it was last week. Mashallah, he is writing the definition. It's that big Russian, 6-foot Russian guy walking down the road with something smaller than a chihuahua.
Exactly.
Just to impress the women, right, who emotionally abuse him anyway. That's it, bro. Listen,
you're a good teacher, Abdurraheem.
Like my sides are splitting right now. And talking of it, I think they want me to cook dinner now, bro. So I've got to go.
Well, I'm not going to call you a simp, Abdurraheem, and I'm not going to say you're simping up. Bro. I'm going to say that you're having empathy and you're conscientious towards your family. Just like when we take our wives out, say no cooking today, no.
I'm making the pizza. I'm the only one who can make the pizza, and my pizza is so good. By the way, no one even wants to eat pizza from outside the house. So when you come, inshallah, you're gonna have some of my pizza, inshallah.
Definitely, and as long as you don't put the apron on when I come round.
I don't. I very rarely wear an apron. I just get my.
What do you mean very rarely? You shouldn't wear an apron at all.
I don't, bro. My dad used to, and I'm telling you, my dad was not a simp.
Definitely not, bro.
Inshallah.
All right, bro. Listen, it's been as usual an absolute pleasure, bro. It was a slow burner, this one, but mashallah. And as usual, alhamdulillah, the more you guys listening get involved, the better it gets. We had some great comments
Definitely.
here today as well. I
Definitely.
don't think we gave full justice to the comments, but
We
bro,
did.
listen, I got to get going. So
Likewise,
from me,
we didn't
Abdurraheem
expect.
Green, it's been a real pleasure. And from
And for
our
me,
beloved brother
it's
over there,
been a pleasure. We did not expect that we would be causing each other to fall about in hysterics, but it was necessary. There's a serious side is still there. Listen to that as well. And from us, it's been a piece of cake. And we will see you next week. Jazakumullah khair, and thank you for all those who've tuned in. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.